I think as an Australian fan, this might be a record low in terms of words spoken by me in this podcast. India fan Nash, I'll just hand it over to you. Off the long run, tell me how you're feeling. Tell me what happened over the last few days.
Yeah, sad, disappointed, dejected. Uh, it's the manner in which they have lost the test match, and I've always maintained my stance that it's not the actual losses, it's the manner in which they lose. It's never a convincing victory as well. In the last 2 years, we have seen this was long due. This was long time coming in Indian conditions. The top order hasn't contributed anything significant in the last 3 years that I remember. Jaiswal has been the glimmer of hope in the last 12 months, even 10 months. And he has scored what 1,000 runs now in Indian conditions. It's been so poor that the lower order has always rescued India from these positions, and this series they were not able to do so, and that's where it hurt India. Because every time I go back to the previous series, be it Border Gavaskar Trophy last year, India versus England this year, someone has stepped up. It was Akshar Patel during the Australia series. It was Ashwin, and it was Jadeja during the England series. Even Dhruv Jurel
Jarrell,
during the
yep.
England series as well. So it was always someone in the lower order, lower middle order who was doing the hard yards for the team, and not the top order. And the day their credits run out, we all know what's happened. We were talking, and I had all these rants in my mind, but at this stage, I've had the time to process the loss. It's still not completely processed, but it's just pathetic how even after such a loss, there is so little questions asked of the coach and the captain in particular. Because I remember the last pair, and as an outsider, as a non-Indian fan, you may have noticed as well that when Kohli and Shastri were the captain and the coach, there was so much under scrutiny all the time. When Ashwin wasn't playing in England, they were like, why is the number one player not playing, number one bowler not playing? Even though we were winning the matches, even though we were winning the series, almost won the series. And then, after the Lord's win, I think it was the Lord's victory or the Oval victory, after winning there, Quick Info writer Siddharth Monga wrote a piece saying Kohlism needs to be reviewed.
Yep.
That is utter bullshit. That is
I
not
remember
how journalism works.
I remember that
And
article. Yep.
And now, when we have lost a 12-year record of 18 consecutive victories, series wins, there is not a single piece on captain that I can find. And again, Siddharth Monga is at the scene of the crime, writing an article saying, "Oh, don't be sad. We have lost. Be happy. It happened." This is not how a journalist should behave.
Uh,
Journalists should
yeah.
ask questions of why this happened.
Mm.
We have lost an ODI series to Sri Lanka in the last 12 months. We have lost a home series in for the first time in the last 12 years. We have lost a home World Cup, and that T20 win sandwiched between all this is sort of uh, putting the paper or the crack stuff, but that's not how it works. Both
Mm.
all formats are different. It's the manner in which these losses have happened. Get right from the first test where the toss happened, and the decision,
Mm.
I still can't justify what that decision was. Why
Yeah.
if the pitch was under the covers for the 2 days before the start of the test match? Why would any captain pick batting first?
Yeah.
When you have Bumrah in your ranks, when you have Siraj in your ranks, both are Bumrah is the greatest fast bowler India has ever produced,
He
and
is.
and no
Yeah.
one no one can question that. He's one of the greatest fast bowlers going around. No one can question that. Then why would you not trust them to do the job? And then to get out in such manners that how Rohit Sharma got out in the first test, and it's just this whole idea of selfless 40s and 30s that's been paraded around
Yeah.
has been
Yeah.
damaging to
Yeah.
Rohit Sharma, first of all, as a player, because he is better than that. We all know that. Even the harshest critics know he's a good player. But he doesn't apply himself as much as Virat Kohli has in the past. And coming to Virat Kohli, he has been shocking as well in the last 12 months. Yes, he had a great 2023, and again he has fallen off this year as well. Yes,
Mm.
he averages more than 40, and people might not like what I'm saying, but he has to have a big Border Gavaskar trophy.
We'll get to
At
that.
least
Yeah.
both players, Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, have to step up. I
Mm.
don't care. Like I tweeted the other day, I don't care who scores the runs. I don't care who takes the wickets. Just win. That's all we care about. That's all I care about. Just win. Go to Australia. Keep that record again. Try and keep that record. Make sure, even if we lose, make sure we let Australia work hard for their wins. We just don't go there and get rolled over. And
Spot
we've
on.
done that in the past. We have made them work hard. The last two series are the perfect example.
Mm.
2018-19 was absolutely convincing for India. They blew away Australia out of the
It
waters.
was.
But 2021, with the injuries and everything that was going around, it was much more hard fought. And we have done that before with the lesser skilled players in the team.
Yeah.
Tina Trajan hasn't played a test match after that. There's so many players. Shardul Thakur has fallen off the wagon as well, and he's not in the reckoning anymore. And there's so many players who have fallen off the radar in test matches after that tour. So we
Mm.
have done it when the cards were stacked against us, and with lesser skilled players. So there's no reason we shouldn't be able to compete again. Yes, we don't have Shami, and yes, I know we'll talk about Border Gavaskar Trophy, but my mind again keeps going there because uh, I don't want to get hammered again in Australia. Not when I say again, this will take me back probably 15 years. The 2003-4 series, 2000, even though we won a test, it was the era of the 90s. The manner of those losses hurt so much more. And coming back to India, New Zealand, i'm 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 really scared. What if we get whitewashed? I mean, uh,
That would be something.
I mean,
I told you
will,
before
will the
the
questions
series.
will
I
the
told you before
questions
the
be asked
series
then?
3-0. I told you before the series 3-0. I didn't think it'd be 3-0 New Zealand.
uh I mean, like I keep saying, losing to this New Zealand team, and people have pointed out in the comments that, oh, this New Zealand team is so good. Let's be honest. Of all the teams that have traveled, and I don't mean only New Zealand. Of all the teams, South Africa, Australia, England, Sri Lanka, who play spin very, very well. Of all the teams that have traveled to India in the last 12 years, since that England loss in 2012-13,
Mm.
this team would not have been anyone's pick
No
to
way.
break the record. Maybe Australia 2017, that was a brilliant team. Maybe an England earlier this year, because of it wasn't that confidence boosting team, but just the way they were going about their cricket. They have this entire new sort of aura about them, and that's why maybe. But I would not have picked this New Zealand team
No.
without Kane Williamson, without Trent Bolt, without Neil Wagner.
Mm.
This team. I don't see how
Well, don't forget, New
Rohit
Zealand
Sharma.
were pummeled in Sri Lanka 2-0 last month
Exactly.
or whenever it was.
Exactly. Exactly. They were absolutely hammered. And to win in India. And we keep saying, raging turners, this and that. That pitch in Pune was not a raging turner by any means. By any means. And Indian batters just did not know how to tackle Mitchell Satner. They did not want to stay at the crease. They kept playing Virat Kohli, that horrendous shot in the first innings. That was that was
What's going
absolutely.
on
I
there?
I was
Yeah.
like, what is happening here?
Mm.
I did not know whether to laugh or cry, to be honest.
I couldn't
I
believe.
mean,
The thing was, the New Zealand players couldn't believe it either.
exactly, and it was so funny that I wanted to cry. It was that funny, like those times when something is happening and it's funny, but you you're so helpless in that moment that you
Mm.
just have to cry.
Yep.
And that was what I was thinking. And Mitchell Santner bowled a really great spell in both innings, but I still believe he did not bowl that great where our batters were too bogged down to take him on. And they were not trying to rotate strike. They were not trying to get runs off him. They just let him bowl on one spot. And the basic thing you're taught in school as a cricketer or in age group cricket is never let a bowler bowl on one spot for too long.
Hmm.
And no one was able to break that. No batter in the Indian
Yeah.
team was able to break that. And that's what is shocking. And all this entire
Hmm.
team now belongs to Gautam Gambhir and Rohit Sharma.
It does.
If the previous team, previous mistakes belonged to Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri, this belongs to Gambhir and Sharma. End of. There is, you know, Rohit Sharma was quick to take credit for all the IPL victories and all that, this and that, and then he was those statements in the press conference and after the in the post match interview, saying, we look at this as a collective failure. Yes, it is a collective failure, but you are the captain. What was the field setting? Mm, you know mm, you have Mitchell Santner on strike or Tim Southee on strike. There is no silly point. There's no short leg. You have Ashwin bowling 532 wickets in test matches. I think he should be able to ask of Rohit Sharma that, no, I want this field, and then bowl to that field. I
Hmm.
think he has that much credit in his bank. But knowing Rohit Sharma, if Border Gavaskar Trophy doesn't go the way Indian fans are hoping, or doesn't go India's way, I don't think how Rohit Sharma can stay on as a captain. I don't think he should. This is a pathetic display of cricket so far in this
Big
series.
statement. Um,
I mean, look,
a lot
look.
to
If you,
unpack there.
I know
A
it's
lot.
you might say, sorry, you might say it's a big statement, but think about it from an Australian perspective as well. If a captain has
Yep.
lost, let's say, four Ashes series back to back, or a
Yo.
three Ashes series back to back, does he still have a place as a captain in the team? No, I wouldn't say he does,
Well, we
because
wouldn't. I don't think we'd see articles praising him for his press conference or writing wishy-washy stuff instead of saying it as it is. I wonder why.
exactly,
I'll look at it and I wonder why, from an outsider, why the Indian media has been so soft now, the last 18 months, two
because
years
there
compared to
is.
previous.
I didn't believe it before, but now it does look like there is an active narrative being formed, because it is a bit fishy, isn't it? Like, if you have a captain
Yeah, I
who's
wouldn't
lost a
have. I
12
wouldn't
year
have ever
streak.
seen praise for a press conference or you know, such an incredible narrative around legacies and all this stuff after beating Bangladesh 2-0 at home. It's, you expect it to beat Bangladesh
Exactly.
2-0 at home. So to come out with an article like that or a viewpoint like that, it's quite interesting to me.
I mean, there was an article. I'm naming names, and there was an article from, again, Cricinfo, at the scene of the crime, Alagappan Muthu, and he
That's
wrote.
the one. Yeah,
Yeah, he wrote, there have been brilliant captains in the past, but Rohit Sharma might be outdoing all of them. No, he
that's the
isn't.
one.
He
He's
just
not.
lost. Yeah, he's not.
It
He,
was,
he
it was too
beat
early to
he beat
say. He wrote that
effing
after a test match, right? It wasn't after the
he beat
T20 World
effing
Cup.
Bangladesh. Yeah, he beat
Yeah,
effing Bangladesh.
it
And,
was
and
a
let's be
2-0 at
honest, yeah,
home. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and lost. Is trailing
Now,
2-0 at
this
home.
is the risk for India here. Once you start having these little bits and pieces of, oh, it's okay. Oh, it's a good press conference. Oh, it's all right. It's all right. Eventually, your standards start to creep lower and
Yep.
lower and lower and lower and lower. And that is good news for every other team in the world where you go, oh, look, it's all right if it's there. All right. One collapse here is all right. It's not just one collapse. As you said before, it's been a collapse regularly the last couple of years at home. If they come out with these articles with this PR that I've mentioned before, is oh, it's okay. Eventually, your standards are going to creep lower, as I said, because you're going to accept less. Now, the point is you're going to lose. But as you brightly said at the start, it's the way you lose. I'm going to give a lot of credit to New Zealand. But the first thing I will say, which might be at risk of not giving credit to New Zealand, is I expected India to make New Zealand fight harder for the win in the second game in particular. I thought that even when New Zealand took the lead of over 100, I expected India to really fight back with the ball in the field first, and then in
Yep.
the chase make it, make a real fist of it. But I just thought they just accepted that we're going to lose the game from the field settings early in the New Zealand innings, allowing easy singles, letting the game drift. I tweeted that I've never seen a time where I don't see a time very often where India let things drift at
Mm.
home. And then I think in the chase, so many poor dismissals again. I know Santner bowled incredibly well, and I'll touch on him in a sec. I know New Zealand played fantastic cricket, but a lot of the dismissals were India's doing,
Yep.
and then you see that, if you're
Most
going to
of them,
accept
yes.
those standards eventually are going to drop further and further down. Because as you mentioned, collapses have been regular. You lost 2-0 in Sri Lanka, and you lost 2-0 at home to New Zealand, who, let's face it, New Zealand have always been a very good team that punch above their weight, but they've struggled away from home for a long time. And they
Yep.
lost 2-0 in Sri Lanka. It was a series everyone expected India to win. But on to New Zealand. On to New Zealand. The first guy I want to touch on is Santner. It was the second morning of the match, and I tweeted that I've never seen Santner bowl so consistently in Test cricket. It's one thing for the pitch to have assistance for you, but Santner was on the spot all the time. I've rarely seen that from him in red ball cricket in the long form. He's always been a bowler that can bowl two or three good balls, but then let the pressure slip with a boundary ball. He bowled
Look, I
beautifully.
think he did bowl beautiful, but I think and in the past we have seen Satner, bowl four good balls and then two loose
That's
balls.
right.
But
And that's even
again,
against
I'll
batters,
keep
Nash. That's even against batsmen who are not taking him on. You might not be taking him on, but then you know that you can just sit on him and he'll give you a short ball or a full toss or
yeah.
whatever it is and let you off the hook. He
And look,
wasn't doing that in this
I
test.
I'll keep saying I'll always blame the players, and this is something I wanted to touch on as well. It's you know, Ravi Shastri sort of imbibed that thought process in the mind of the players that take the pitch out of the equation, and it is true. You can't blame the ground, you can't blame the pitch, unlike other countries. What other countries do?
Who? Who's that? I
You,
don't know. I don't know who you're talking about.
you can't you can't keep blaming the pitch or everything else under the sun but your players. Oh,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
bat slipped and went to square leg, that's why I got
yeah.
bowled. I couldn't see the ball, and that's why I left a ball that was coming straight on. And it's absolutely
I love
laughable,
it.
those excuses. And I'll as most of Indian fans that I've seen on social media will never do that. Most sensible Indian fans will never do that.
I
They
agree
will
with
blame
you.
the
The fans
players.
have been good. I think it's the media accepting and making excuses and accepting, I think, some mediocre cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it is mediocre cricket to be playing that way in India, losing that way in India. It is absolutely pathetic. And you keep saying Santner bowled well.
He did.
He did absolutely bowl brilliantly. But again, I'll blame the batters. These batters are way too skilled for a bowler like Santner to bowl that well, is what I'll say.
Take
You
13
know, they
wickets.
yes, they are that's what I'm saying.
No one could have dreamt of
For
that.
Exactly. For a bowler of Santner's, let's be honest, he's not a Rangana Herath, or he's not a Shane Warne, or he's not a Daniel Vittori. To run through an Indian lineup like that. I never even remember Daniel Vittori running through Indian lineup.
No.
Um and that's the thing. Indian batters, I'll say, let him do that. Even though he did bowl brilliantly, I'll still keep saying, because these players, we have seen them take apart bowlers before. Rishabh Pant, Jaiswal, Kohli, Sharma, everyone. We've seen them do that. And now this is just evident of a lack of preparation, lack of
Mm.
sort of the skill level going down a bit. But um I think it's more of a mental game now when they come to Australia.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in Australia. But on to New Zealand, I thought Latham captained very well. I think he won the captaincy battle the first two tests quite well. Um, very calm figure on the field. I think New Zealand made the right call, letting Southey just focus on his bowling, giving the captaincy to Tom Latham. I think that should have happened a while ago. And he's been outstanding as captain. I thought he batted beautifully in the second innings. There was, Bharat Sundaresan, tweeted, Steve Smith played a gem in the second innings at Pune in 2017. Who's going to play that knock in this test when New Zealand were in front? Latham played a beautiful innings. The kind of innings we've become accustomed to from him over the years when it comes to playing spin. Very good player of spin, backed by a solid defense first. I think that's where the art of defense has been lost. I think in
Yep.
recent times, I've loved this period of Test cricket, and we've seen some great cricket all over the world. But the thing is, people have forgotten how to defend sometimes, or forgotten, or just completely disregarded it. It's like
Yep.
the best
And
form of defense is attack all the time. Where no, if you have a solid defense, it gives you a solid foundation first. I thought Latham did that very well, and I think Rach and Ravindra played beautifully in that first innings. He got New Zealand up to 3 for 200, and from there they were always in front. And it was going to take a beauty to get rid of him. And we didn't even talk about Washington Sundar's performance. Like
oh, he
he's
has been
seven for
brilliant.
fifty
He's been
nine.
brilliant.
He's 7 for 59 seems like a lifetime ago.
Yes.
But boy, he was very
And
good.
everyone
And
was
Ravindra was
critical of
outstanding.
yeah, everyone was critical of being in the team, and
Yeah, yeah.
even though I couldn't justify the decision. I
It
still
was a,
can't,
it was a strange one, but he
but he
outplayed
is ball
everyone.
absolutely brilliant.
Mm.
He's and that's the other thing. We haven't even spoken about Jadeja and Ashwin, which have
Mm.
they bowl absolutely pathetic as well in that first innings
Interesting,
and
because there's
second
been
innings.
some words on social media. Is it near the end for them, or is that
It,
too
it is.
reactionary?
I mean, that's not a question. That's not a surprise. I mean, Ashwin's 38, I think, and Jadeja is 34, I
No,
think
I'm
as well,
saying, should
34,
they look to
35.
drop them soon? Is my question.
Uh look, I don't think so. I think they have come on, they have that much credit
Well,
in their
look, this
bag
I
for that.
wouldn't. I
And
wouldn't. That's not what I would do. But there's been commentary now on social that these guys are not going
yeah,
to deliver the
and look,
goods. And
I don't think so. I wouldn't as well. And I mean, they
mm,
are too good of players to be
yeah,
to just get bogged down by each and every passing day.
mm,
Um, and let me tell you, Jadeja will be key in Australia as a batter as well,
of course he will
and
be.
and
Yeah.
he'll be key as a bowler to just hold that line, give the fast
Mm,
bowlers a break, and maybe get a
yes.
breakthrough here and there. And obviously we can't not talk about his fielding as well. So
Of course.
I think they particularly bowled. Uh, 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 it was a bit disappointing to watch them bowl because they needed to be in mid 80s, maybe late 80s,
Mm,
in terms of speed. And
mm,
all three spinners started off bowling in the mid 90s and low 90s, and then when Sundar went back to sort of mid 80s, bowled
mm.
85, 86, he started getting the purchase, he started getting the wickets as well. And
Yeah.
watching that, the other two bowlers, Ashwin and Jadeja, didn't change anything.
That's interesting,
Then
isn't it? You usually expect them to find the right pace on a pitch, don't you?
exactly, and then India batted, then Mitchell Santner did the same. Sort of bowled really slow and bowled on the spot and got everything from the pitch. And then in the second innings, again, Ashwin and Jadeja did the same thing.
Yeah.
Didn't change at all. That's to me, that just screams a bit of arrogance that okay, we know what's happening. We have done this before and we are
Mm.
not changing anything. And I think that's I don't know what was being spoken of. No one can know what was being spoken of. But
Yeah,
I
maybe
think
just India expected things to happen. Maybe India just
yeah,
expected things would
exactly.
happen and it didn't.
And for that, just New Zealand played truly out of their skin. I mean, a
They
lot.
did.
These two wins would have taken a lot from their mental strength. I mean, to
Definitely.
beat India in India, and to
Because
stay
yeah,
on top of your game each session. I think they have won almost all sessions
they
that I can
did.
remember of.
Yeah. And you're
Um,
right, because they're 100 in front. For any team you think, oh boy, we're 100 in front here, we're already 1-0 up. We have a chance of winning. You can almost go into your shell a little bit. You try not to make a mistake, and you think, "Oh
yeah,
God, look what!" But they stayed on the front foot. I thought that Conway played beautifully in the first innings, as I
yeah,
said, Latham in the second innings, and I think New Zealand in the first 5 wickets, 6 wickets, they had partnerships right down the order, so they never lost 2 wickets quickly. It was 36, 78,
that's correct.
89,
That's
relatively
correct.
quick, 123, 183, 231. So they never lost 2 wickets back to back. That's what teams typically do in India. They lose wickets very quickly. New Zealand didn't do that, and they deserve to
Yeah,
win. They deserve to win this series easily. No question asked.
absolutely.
Better side by a mile.
Not a whitewash though. Not a whitewash. Come
Oh
on,
man, you tell
Mumbai.
me.
Come on, Mumbai.
But
Not
could
in
you
Mumbai. If
imagine?
if it happens in Mumbai, I'm going to be so
Could you
disappointed.
imagine a New Zealand whitewashing India? That would be one of the most extraordinary. Well, this is already one of the most extraordinary results in Test history for me, and that's not
Yeah.
just recency bias. When you consider New Zealand's away record and India's home record and all that, New Zealand hadn't won a Test in India since 1988. To go and win a series like this, one of the most unbelievable results.
Yeah,
Um,
I can't do anything other than just sigh. If there is a whitewash, um, the look, if there is a
what
whitewash,
article
I
will come out?
truly
What
believe
article will come out in the media about if India's whitewashed 3-0? What do you think they'll be
I don't
writing?
I think we'll just see suddenly all the journalists get a writer's block, and I think, oh, there'll be no articles. I think
That's four
it'll
home
be
losses.
funny
That's
because
four home losses in the last 18 months.
yep, and it's so funny because they're not even hiding their narratives and agenda anymore, because all the images are using all the images that have been used are Virat Kohli and other players but Rohit Sharma, whereas
Mm,
previously it was just the captain and the coach.
yeah,
And
interesting. Interesting.
I truly hope history will be kinder to someone like Virat Kohli, Ravi Shastri, and Pujara. And we haven't even spoken about
Yeah,
how Pujara was the
yeah. I
catalyst in
mean, for an
Australia.
outsider looking
And
in, as an Australian fan, those guys deserve immense credit for what they've done for Indian Test cricket in particular. And I will not let any Indian media outlet who's got an agenda influence my thinking personally. And I'm sure a lot of
yeah,
people will believe the same. In Australia, we look at Virat Kohli as the villain, but I know a lot of Australian fans even would respect Virat Kohli for what he's done as a captain of India's team. No
I
question
mean
about it.
that's what I love about Australia, and living here, and staying here and talking to Aussies, and who are now my friends and family. They are one of the most competitive, and they'll fight tooth and nail till the
Mm,
end, but that always stays on the field most of the
mm.
time. They will respect a good competitor on
Oh,
the
100%
opposition as
we
well.
do.
They will know what it means to win, and Virat Kohli is one.
Mm. Yes, we
The
respect good
respect for
competition
Virat
here.
Kohli is a
That's
lot
when
here.
we've got a good team out here and there's a good cricket going on. That's when the crowds really swell up. It's when there's
Yeah.
good competition here. We really appreciate good competition when a good team comes out. That's
Yeah,
the thing with Aussies.
absolutely. And we've spoken about India and New Zealand, and one thing we wanted to bring back is the Ask CricBlog section, and
Yes.
that sort of conversation is a perfect segue to the first question that was asked: is how has the perception of
Mm.
Indian Test team in Australia changed over the decades as we look forward to the Border Gavaskar Trophy, let's say from 2003 to now? This was asked by cricket_broken from the Broken Cricket Dreams cricket blog.
Great
What
question.
do you think as an Australian?
Oh, huge difference. I thought in 2003, India really punched above their weight. Incredible performance there. They won a test. That Adelaide win was amazing. 0708, the Sydney test I thought was terrible in terms of the umpiring. And India were very hard done by. I admit that. But even then, Australia were always favoured. Australia were always in the box seat to win that series. And then don't get me started on 2011, 12, and 14, 15. India didn't fire a shot. They didn't have any
Mm.
bowling prowess in those series. But then fast forward to 18, 19, and 20, 21. Yes, the batting was great. Pujara was brilliant, but India were able to take 20 wickets. They looked threatening with the ball. They never let Australia get away. So over time, it's like India are a different team now. They can come here and they can not only maybe win a test here or there, but actually win a series. And that's why the
And
perception changed a lot.
And look, you speak about 14, 15. I think it was a big changing point in India's
100%.
test fortunes, because that's when Virat Kohli took over, and Dhoni retired in the middle of the test series after Melbourne, I think. And um, that's when sort of that
Yes.
fast bowling uh, revolution happened in Indian test cricket. And
Yes.
that was really great in terms of setting up those 18, 19, and 2021 victories as well, and a lot of overseas victories elsewhere. So I think, yes, as an Indian, you know, being in Australia for the last 10 years, the attitude has changed a lot towards the Indian Test cricket
Mm.
team in general, but a lot of it, and people might not like me saying it, but a lot of it has come from Virat Kohli. People will identify him quickly, like, oh yes, we love Virat Kohli. We wish he was an Australian. That's what everyone
Oh
has told
yeah,
me.
man. If he was our captain over the years, I'd be very happy.
Yeah, I
Not to
mean,
say
let's not
we,
even
yeah, of
let's not even talk about Sachin because we'll be here all day. I mean,
yeah,
what he means to Australians as a cricketer. I mean,
course.
hold him on a very high pedestal, and
Virat Kohli will be
then we
remembered as
have,
a very competitive
yeah,
cricketer who stood up to
almost an
Australia.
Australian who isn't an Australian.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think Indian fans over the years, they've cried out for someone to stand up to Australia, right? And this Virat Kohli did that. He's done that over the
Absolutely,
years. Now, they're driving the fast bowling revolution. You're 100% right. He and Shastri, they identify that we've got to fix up our fitness. We've got to fix up our fast bowling. Otherwise, we're going to continue to struggle overseas. Remember, they lost 1-0 in New Zealand, 1-0 in South Africa, 3-1 in England before the 2014-15 Border Gavaskar Trophy. So they lost basically 4 series in a row when he took over. They were seventh, ranked seventh in the world.
yeah,
Now, since then, they've been towards the top. Yeah, absolutely. India become a team that can win more overseas. That's definitely the
absolutely.
case. On Virat Kohli, then the
Well,
next question we've got is thoughts on Virat's future in red ball cricket. That's from cricket Sparsh, Sparsh Talang. Now, I'll
uh,
answer this first. If he has a poor Border Gavaskar trophy and struggles, it might be time to look beyond Virat. And that's a massive thing to say, but it's 4 years and he's averaging 32 in the last 4, 5 years.
look, I think it is it is difficult to I don't think he'll be dropped as such. I think he himself will just go, okay, this is time for me
Yes.
to
And if he has a poor
retire.
series in Australia, that might trigger him to say, yeah, okay.
I think that's on his mind for a while now. I think he still has that hunger to score runs, but the mind. I mean, we are no one to speak about Virat Kohli's mental strength, to be honest. But um, as a batter, the way he's getting out, the way he's still running his heart out. He's still trying to score runs. His shot making is still like he's a
He
21
looks
year old.
good in patches, doesn't he? I mean, he's 70 in the second innings at Bengaluru was good.
Oh, it
And
was glorious.
he looks good for a little while, but then there's something out of nowhere that happens and gets himself out a lot of the time.
Absolutely. And look, uh, if the Border Gavaskar Trophy doesn't go well for him, I think he should hang up the boots in Test cricket. I
Mm.
think I love him too much to see him struggle,
Mm.
and I do feel he will come good in Border Gavaskar Trophy, even if he scores 200s. You know that's easier said than done, and
India will
it's a
be very
big
happy with
big
that if he can
ask.
hit 200s. But,
But 200s out of 10 innings, 5 Test matches,
well, I
I
think
think
he's hit
that'll be a
200s in
great
his
feat.
last 52 test innings, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
51, 52
And
test, he's hit 200s.
I
So,
mean, we know he's good. I mean, we know he's
of
still the
course.
prized wicket for any bowling attack and for any
Listen,
team.
that's not to
So
say he can't come here and perform. He's got it in
yeah,
him.
absolutely. He's I mean,
The last test against New Zealand is key. If he can get runs there, give him some
he
confidence.
loves
You
he
never
loves
know.
Australia. Ever since coming here 2011, he has scored 100 every series, I think, except the
Hmm.
2020-21 where he played just one Test match. And I think it's been brilliant watching him on Australian
It's been
decks and
great.
Australian
Uh,
grounds.
I hope from an Australian perspective that we get the better of him. But I do, as a Virat Kohli fan myself, you want to see him keep going in Test cricket for as long as possible because he is an advocate for the game.
Yeah,
He loves red ball cricket. He loves Test cricket.
yeah.
But anyway, we'll see what happens going forward there. But if he has a bad series, might be the end. Another question from Debashish Sarangi at plum_in front. In your opinion, what changes should India make for the final test against New Zealand?
Look, I think knowing the Mumbai deck, I'll
Mm.
bring I'll bring Siraj back if he's
Yep,
fit and not. I mean, Akashdeep was just a liability in the end in the second Test match.
it
I mean,
wasn't used,
he's
was
still
he?
a yeah, he's still a good bowler.
He's a good bowler.
Not don't get me wrong,
Would
but
you
I
play
think
three seamers or
Look, I won't change the spinner. Like, who would you drop? That's the question. Because
Yeah,
Sundar has had a great test match,
true.
and obviously you can't drop Ashwin and Jadeja. So it's either Akashdeep goes in and Siraj comes in, and
Yeah,
you can't chop and change too much. Um,
agree with that.
and I
Yes.
think the batting will stay the same as well. And
Yeah, I
it's
think it
really
will.
high time Shubman. We haven't even spoken about Shubman Gill. It's high time he steps up and shows what he's got, because if he doesn't have a good test match and a good Border Gavaskar trophy, his position is on the line as well. His role is on the line as well, because he can't be doing that at number three.
Agree.
He can't. He number three. He has to be the one stabilizing the innings. He has to be the one playing the long innings in the top four.
And we saw that with Pujara, didn't we, over such a long
Exactly.
period?
Exactly.
I agree with you. I think that's applicable to a number of players in the Indian batting lineup. And to be fair, Australia are in that similar boat where we've got players out of form or players needing to step up in this upcoming series as well. So very, very interesting times indeed. And that brings us on to our final couple of questions in a bit of a different light here, talking more around T20 cricket. So first question here from Robin at Robin underscore rounder with the 100, inviting private investors. How practical is it in the BBL? How do you see the tournament surviving with how it's currently going, and how big can it be with potential private IPL investors? I don't see it happening. I think if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. And I think the reason for that is I don't think Cricket Australia want to relinquish control. And
Yep.
the thing is that the challenge in Australia is it's the Test cricket and the BBL goes together. So we don't usually get the Test stars playing in the BBL for the majority of the season because it's a very particular window in Australia where cricket peaks. It's very seasonal here.
Yep.
So when Test cricket is going, BBL is going strong because that's when cricket's peaking. So that they both work well together
Yep.
in a sense.
Look, I think a lot of outside fans don't understand how the Big Bash is really set up.
Yeah,
And for those who are not completely aware of how the Big Bash is set up, unlike all of the other franchise leagues that happen, except I think New Zealand maybe, Cricket Australia has ownership on all the Big Bash teams. It's not a privately they are not privately owned teams. For
correct,
example, an Adelaide Strikers team comes under the same umbrella as a South Australian Cricket Association. So they are controlled by the SACA. The employees are essentially SACA employees. They are not Adelaide Strikers is not a separate entity as well.
correct.
Um, the Hobart Hurricanes is not separate from Cricket Tasmania. Melbourne Strikers and Melbourne Stars and Melbourne
Yeah,
Renegades come under Cricket Victoria. So
correct.
that's how it's set up. It's set up under the state entities. It's set up under the state
Yep,
associations. So Cricket Australia has full control on all decisions. Except,
correct.
yes, there are different teams. Like let's say you are an employee of Melbourne Renegades and Cricket Victoria, but no one is just a Melbourne Renegade employee. I mean, there are some changes here and there with general managers and all those, but they all report to
Mm.
one CEO of Cricket Victoria. So it's that's how it's set up. So having private investors means Cricket Australia and the state associations will have to give up their share of the money of the pot, and I don't see that happening.
That would be a big problem because the reason is those private investors will want the best Australian players available.
Yep.
So, what does that mean for our test team? What does that mean for test cricket as well? That means that they'll want Travis Head playing in the BBL, Steve Smith, Marnus, etc. They'll all want them playing in the BBL because they want the best quality cricket for the best return on investment. And
Yep.
then you've got a situation where in a very seasonal sport where you've got a few months where everything peaks, what happens? Do you put your BBL later? That won't work. You put your BBL earlier? That won't work. Test cricket, if you move it away from the traditional dates, that won't work. So it creates a lot of problems. That's my opinion
Mm,
on that.
absolutely.
And that ties into our last question from Vida Jayashankar at Jay Shan. New Zealand cricket at its all-time highs in the last week. The World T20 in the women's and the Black Caps winning in India. Is it right time for New Zealand to go franchise? They have a Super Smash T20 league every year. Is it right to maybe rebrand and go franchise? I don't know. I think it depends on how New Zealand would do it. When they would do it, do they get private investors? What's going to be the strategy behind it? It's an option,
Look, I
but
think
I'm not sure.
it is an option. The thing is, cricket's still not that big of a game in New Zealand. Yes, it is a summer sport, but I mean, the biggest game is rugby. So
Yes.
that's where all the cricket-like things happen from an Indian point of view, if I can put it that way. So, or that's where rugby players are held to a higher standard. They're
Yep.
questioned every single day,
Yep.
and that they are almost legends and gods in New Zealand.
Yes,
That's
they
where
are.
all the hype and all the money and all the fame is, and not cricket. Cricket is much more of a secondary sport, so to say, in New Zealand, and uh, that's why this win in India matters even more.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
uh, New Zealand always play with their heart out. So, but giving up an ownership again, coming back to the BBL point,
Yeah.
giving up ownership of the teams means less money for maybe for the state teams. In
Yeah,
in in a
possibly.
in a in a time when New Zealand is not amongst the richest in the world, and
Yep.
um, that means just giving up more money to the private investors.
You're right. I mean, it depends on the financial aspects of it, comparing it and having a look at what it does for your cricket, because you can get that initial investment in from the investors, of course, but what are you relinquishing? That's the big thing for New Zealand and Australia
True, true.
to get with their T20 cricket. Thanks, Nash. Thanks, everyone, for
Thank
listening. We
you.
hope you enjoyed this episode. Congratulations to New Zealand on the win. Commiserations to India. And I do hope, from an Australian perspective, that another loss is coming in the Border Gavaskar Trophy. That would be nice. We'll be
Another
discussing.
loss for Australia, you mean?
Nah, loss for India because you've just lost.
Ah, okay.
You've
Yep,
just
fair
lost.
enough.
Three
Fair
weeks to
enough.
go. 3 weeks to go.
All right,
Exactly, pretty
we'll
much.
be
So
here.
look forward to it. We'll be here
Thank you.
covering all that. Thanks, everyone. You can catch us on
Thank you.
at
See
CricBlog
ya.
Pod on X and Instagram, by the way. So follow us there to get all the reels and stay in touch. Thanks, everyone.